Before last week's NFL Combine, there were several New Orleans Saints fans who were saying the 8th pick of the NFL draft, that's way too high a price to pay for any running back, including Notre Dame's Jeremiyah Love. After the Combine, many Saints fans are now saying Love won't be there at 8. What's our best guess? And if Love is there at 8, do the Saints get to the podium faster than Love runs the 40? We have a first-time guest this morning. It was joined by WGNO-TV sportscaster Jon Sokoloff, and he'll share his opinion. So we'll also talk about another Pelicans collapse in my monologue, this time at the Lakers, where the Pels led deep into the fourth quarter. What do LSU's baseball odds look like after giving up 13 runs to Northeastern and ahead of the game tonight against their little brothers to the west? You know what I'm talking about. I might be a little stuffed up, but neither rain nor snow nor a little flu can stop the Dattitude podcast. And no worries, I'm pretty sure you can't catch this thing virtually. But just in case, maybe you should hold your breath while we get this thing started.
Ready to hear the straight scoop on local and national sports? It's time for Jim Derry's take on the Saints, LSU, what betting lines to ponder, and more. He's got opinions, he's got insight, and he's got Dattitude. And he'll always tell you the way it is, or at least the way he thinks it is.
Where you at, Dattitude family? Did you stay up late watching the Pels last night? Or did you fall asleep when they were up by 8 with 7:20 to play, thinking they would win? Silly rabbit. Tricks are for Dattitude, episode number 479, presented by Evangeline Securities for a Wednesday, March the 4th, 2026. In case you're new here, who is this guy who can't talk? Well, my name is Jim Derry. 35 and a half years on the New Orleans sports media scene. I thank you so much for spending part of your day with us. Welcome to the Dad family. Yes, I still got the funk. Oh, man. It is. I do not wish this on anyone. We are working through it. Doesn't matter. We got to plow through. We got too much to do. I was not, first time guest on the show. We haven't had a first time. When's the last time we had a first time guest, Gabe? I don't even remember last time we had a first time guest. It's been a little while. So Jon Sokoloff is going to be on here. We did a show together. We did Eric Asher's show together. Oh, I don't know, a month or so ago. It's before Mardi Gras. I know that. WGNO-TV sportscaster. He's excellent, man. He's going places. No offense to WGNO whatsoever when I say this, but he is not going to be around here for long. He is really good at what he does, and he'll be on here talking this morning. We're going to talk mostly Saints, as you saw in the title slide. It's not going to be all about Jeremiyah Love, and I know some people might even be getting sick of the whole Jeremiyah Love talk, but look, when we're talking about what the Saints need to do going forward, and what they're thinking in the draft right now, PFF changed their mocks a little bit. We'll get into what their mock says. The mocks, look, some of the talking heads they're trying to will Jeremiyah Love to the Chiefs. That's what they want to see this morning. That's what they want to see. And well, look, a lot can happen over the course of the next 6 weeks to the draft. Actually, I think it's 7 weeks. I think it's 7 weeks from tomorrow is round 1 of the draft. So lots going to happen before then. We'll talk about it, all that this morning. We're going to get into LSU baseball a little bit. We're going to get into I want to hear what Jon thinks about this. That we've been asking that's why we've had so many different guests on since we started. Came back from season 6 premiere last week. This will be the 5th different guests we've had on. And one thing we're going to ask every guest before the draft is, what do you think the state of the Saints are? That's what we're going to get into today. Again, we're going to talk about LSU baseball coming up, and I'm going to get to the Pels in just a minute. But Jon's coming on in about 10 minutes, so we got a lot of stuff to talk about before then. Can't give it justice this morning. But breaking news, according to Jeff Duncan, the great sports columnist and my friend over at the Times-Picayune, the Saints will not play in the Hall of Fame game on August 6th. There had been hope by many Saints fans they would, because Drew Brees is going to be enshrined into the Hall of Fame. They haven't played in the game since 2012. But if you go through the story, it sounds like that the Saints didn't want to play in it due to they are already having plenty of travel, not only in just the preseason, because they're going to spend a lot of the preseason in California this year. In those years, right, at least with the 17-game schedule, when you're scheduled to have 9 home games, which the Saints don't because they're going to Paris, another travel another thing they're going to travel for. But when it's that NFC 9 games, you play 2 of your 3 preseason games on the road. So the Saints already were going to be on the road for 2 of their preseason games. Again, they're going to spend time in California as they have been doing, and they just didn't want to play it. And you can understand that. Speculation is that Carolina will be in the game potentially. Luke Kuechly is going to the Hall of Fame. Could be Arizona. Larry Fitzgerald. Don't know who's going to be from the AFC, but that is the news this morning. Again, the Carolina people think that they're going to the Hall of Fame game. So I haven't heard yet whether they will or won't. So we'll get to that now that the Saints aren't in it. I'm not sure that anyone around here really cares all that much, but when we find out who it is, we will talk about it here and that. Lots of NFL news yesterday. Teams had to decide whether to use the cap. The Colts used the rarely used transition tag on Daniel Jones. I'm sure most of you saw this. His minimum guaranteed salary will now be $37.8 million. And look, I'm going to say this. I don't think it's that bad. I know it's got a lot of flack on social media. I don't really think it's that bad of a deal for the Colts. I mean, $37.8 million for what he did. I mean, look, I know it's Daniel Jones. It is what he is. Danny Dimes stinks. He played pretty damn good when he was with the Colts, when he was healthy towards the end of the season and got hurt again. But when you think about what's going to be out there in the free agent market this year and what's available in the draft, what are the Colts going to do? Anthony Richardson is not the answer. I don't think $37.8 million in the grand scheme of things is that much for a quarterback. Now, if some other team wants to give Daniel Jones more than $37.8 million, the Colts are going to have a decision to make because they have the right of first refusal. So if someone wants to offer Daniel Jones $45 million, which I doubt, but if they do, then the Colts will have a decision to make. Will they be willing to give him whatever he gets? The transition tag, again, how rare is it? It's only been used 20 times since 2000. We'll see. More on that coming up. I got so much news to talk about this morning. I can't stick around on one thing. I got to get to your comments, too, before John comes on the show. No tag. I'll tell you what, before I tell you who no tag on, how about those who were tagged? No surprise of the 3 biggest names that were tagged, at least in my opinion. George Pickens got tagged in Dallas. Breece Hall is not happy about his tag with the New York Jets. We told you about that. So Breece Hall, he's not going to the Saints. He wasn't going to the Saints anyway. I know a lot of you had pipe dreams about that. And then Kyle Pitts is going back to Atlanta. That's no surprise either. So Kyle Pitts, who had an outstanding last 4 or 5 games of the season, are we going to be fooled? Are fantasy football fans going to be fooled by Kyle Pitts once again because of the last 4 or 5 games that he had where he was fantastic the last month of the season. But before that, he was the disappointing Kyle Pitts that we've all seen for the last 4 years. Are you going to be fooled again in your fantasy season? Gabe says no. I bet many people will be. We'll see. How many people will be. Gabe says Kyle Pitts won him a ring. I was dumb enough to sit his ass on the bench, and it cost me a ring. So in a way, I can't say he cost me a ring. It's not his fault. Anyway, I wasn't going to use him. I have brain fart. The dude from Carolina, the Colts. The kid from Penn State. Tell me his name. Tyler Warren. I'm telling you, man, my brain is in the fog. If I say some stupid stuff this morning, give me a break. I'm telling you, it's going to happen. Okay. If I blank out for a minute, it's going to happen. Another reason to have a guest on early this morning. No tag on Trey Hendrickson, the former Saint, and now probably not yet former Bengal, but probably going to be a former Bengal. He's basically said goodbye to Cincinnati. Kenneth Walker. Saints fans going to be paying attention to that one. Kenneth Walker's a free agent. No tag on him. I know Lance is out there praying that somehow the Saints get involved with Baltimore center Tyler Linderbaum. Sorry, Lance, ain't happening. Obviously, wide receiver Alec Pierce was not tagged. Running back Travis Etienne, many others. So go take a look at that. There's lots of goings on this morning. You know what? I'm probably gonna have to. By the way, I'm probably gonna have to get the Pelicans. I may surprise John, and maybe we'll talk to about Pels when John comes on, because I don't have any time to talk about him here in my monologue. And if I don't get to it with John, I'll get to it after, I promise. I will not cut the show off until we talk a little Pels this morning. But other NFL news, I'm sure you all saw before I get to the comments. Kyler Murray to be cut. Excuse me, barring a trade. He is guaranteed $36.8 million. They can't do anything about that. He is going to be paid $36.8 million, whether he gets traded before then or whatever happens. He's guaranteed that kind of money. But if they don't cut him, why would they cut him, you say then, you ask? Because if they don't cut him when the year starts, he's guaranteed another $19.5 million in 2027. They want to move on. I mean, you can understand Arizona wanting to move on. I think Kyler Murray's a good quarterback. I get he's had his moments, his ups and downs. I think Kyler Murray's a good quarterback. I think wherever he goes, I think he's going to be a coup for somebody. Could he go to the Jets? I absolutely see him going to the Jets. The Jets have money to spend. I could see that happening. I think that would be a great play for them. Gabe thinks he's going to go to Minnesota. Man, that would be a great signing for them too. I think look, again, guys get flack, and all Arizona's woes are not because of Kyler Murray. Can he stay healthy is his biggest problem. He hasn't always been able to stay healthy. And then lastly, before we get to the comments, Bears center Drew Dalman retiring at age 27 after 5 seasons. We saw this a little bit with Detroit center Frank Ragnow last year. You saw what it did to them. Former Falcons draft pick, first 4 seasons with the Falcons. Retiring at age 27 after 5 seasons. How bad does he want to retire? I mean, he's given back almost $10 million. It frees up $15 million in cap space. But what does this do to the Bears' offensive line? So all sorts of things. Actually, we may talk more about all these things Friday with Zach. I'm going to bring this up with Zach on Friday because I think it's actually a topic worth talking about. Gabe says he thinks he retired for medical reasons. Of course, that's the only reason why you were retired at age 27 is because of medical reasons. You don't give back $10 million at that age if you're not scared something bad's going to happen to you. So anyway, we may get into that a little bit with Zach. John is not in the green room yet. Again, I'm going to show as many comments as I can show before we get to him. Reminder, if you want to support our show, the best way you can support this channel is to subscribe to our YouTube page. If you are not already subscribed, we would appreciate it so much if you would just take a second of your time, find us on YouTube, click subscribe. We love you. Thank you so much. Give us a like, give us a thumbs up, click the little bell. You'll always receive notifications. We're on the air every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 11 a.m. Central Time, unless something weird happens, which is not very often. And later on, if you love it, if you want to support the channel financially, you can do so in multiple ways. You can do so by subscribing. I mean, not by subscribe, by becoming a member of the Dat family here on YouTube, or if you want to just give us a one-time super chat or a super sticker or whatever it is, we would appreciate that. Anyway, support independent journalism. That's what we are here. If you want to talk to me, if you want to leave me a message, also all members, by the way, get into our free membership into our Slack channel where we all talk to one another. If you want to talk to me outside of that, you just want to subscribe and you want to give me a note, you can find me on X at Jim Derry Jr. or email me, jim@jimderry.com. We're about to take comments. If you want to comment, now's the time to get yours in the stream. But first, let me tell you about our friends at Evangeline Securities. Of course, they're a company that can help you decide if it's the right time to sell your family-run or privately held business. And just as importantly, they can figure out what that business is worth. That's you, someone you know, someone you love, someone you just want to help. Tell them to reach out to Evangeline's founding partner, Nick Braden. He will start by scheduling a complimentary valuation from his office, either on Pointer Street or in Lafayette, the home of our favorite little brothers. From there, you'll be well informed and begin to make the decision on if you want to proceed. What happens after that? We'll tell you after John leaves us later in the show. In the meantime, you can check him out at www.evangelinesecurities.com. You know who you also should hear from? How about our friend Joe DiStefano? If you own a small business of fewer than 20 employees, you know how tough it is to get the best rates on health insurance. That's why you want to call Joe DiStefano Insurance. Joe and I have known each other for almost 40 years. I can tell you that he's someone that I trust. Look, health insurance shouldn't be one size fits all, and with Joe DiStefano, you get access to PPO networks and flexible plans designed to fit you, not just a cookie cutter mold.
Joe's licensed, he's local, but he can help you no matter where you live and operate. From preventative care to peace of mind, we'll tailor a plan that works for your life today and tomorrow. Call Joe DiStefano at 504-234-2132 to protect what matters most.
All right, good morning, everybody. Let's get this show on the road and see what we got in the comment stream. Rocky, good morning. Glad you're here to the Dattitude Nation. A-Town, I have no idea what you're talking about. Did I see Stephen A. Smith about the Pels media department? His shirt off. I have zero clue what you're talking about. No clue. But no, I don't want to see Stephen A. or any other media figure with their shirt off. So that answers that question. UBN's here. Good morning. Hump day. Best I can do. Let's see. Brian Esteve is here. Good morning. Happy hump day. The NFL is like no other league. We're in the offseason, but the NFL news is top of the list. Always is. Look, it is what it is. We talk about other things in the show, but the NFL and the Saints are always going to be number one with this show. It just is. Charles, I love you, but you can't look competitive. They look. Is that where we're at now? They look. Woo freaking who? I love you, Charles. You've been a regular on the show for a long time. Obviously, you're a member. But I don't give a rat's ass that the Pels were competitive. That doesn't do anything for me. They blew an 8-point lead in the fourth quarter. We're going to get to the Pels later. Good morning, Phil. John Gainey says Kansas City's going to jump us to get love. They might. I've been talking about that for a while. Dylan, good morning. UBN says I need Tussin. Chris Rock says no matter whatever you got that's wrong with you, the answer is Tussin. Maybe it is. Musette, good morning. Thank you so much. Stav is here. Opening day of the World Baseball Classic. I'll probably watch a lot of that for sure. Dominican Republic looks tough. Go USA. That's Callie. Good morning. John's in the green room. We got to get rolling here. Kaboom, baby. Kaboom. David Gordon. Kaboom. Inside joke. He knows what I'm talking about. Logan Graffia says Jeremiyah Love can be with the Saints what Ricky Williams was supposed to be. You know, Ricky Williams catches a lot of grief. Ricky Williams is pretty damn good. It's not his fault the Saints was stupid enough to give their old draft away for him, and he didn't. I mean, nobody's going to return in that kind of investment. Maybe Saquon Barkley from 2 years ago. I don't know. A couple more here before we get to John. What else we got here? Jerry's here. Good morning, Jerry. Lance, I'm not going to say it. I'll make you feel better. Chiefs just loaded up in the draft picks by trading McDuffie to the Rams. That was some breaking news that Gabe had sent me earlier. I did not mention it. Maybe we'll talk about that later. Mr. Working Man's here. Good morning. In Jeremiyah Love, we trust. I didn't say it, Lance. I didn't say it. Stop yelling at me. I promise. Steven Dixon, Titans are talking about him. Just could be talk. Hey, they're at 4. Certainly could be. No doubt about it. Adam Varner's here. Good morning. Really no reason to keep Kamara in a productive role. Really would like Love, but if not, there are other running backs that will work. We're going to get into that. We're going to get into that with John in just less than a minute, I promise. Ryan Smith, there you go. There's the full trade. Rams get Trent McDuffie. The Chiefs get a first-round pick, which is number 29. Wow. I didn't realize that much. A 6th and a 5th this year and a 6th in this year and a 3rd in 2027. That's a high price to pay, my friend. Okay. Last comment before we move on to John here. My good friend Shane is here. Love listening to the show. Wouldn't be the first time in Kansas City. That's right. It would not be the first time the Chiefs jumped the Saints. They would have had their quarterback of the future. They wouldn't have just had their quarterback of the future. They would have had potentially maybe the greatest players ever played this game. I'm just saying. That's a whole nother story. All right. It is time. We love first time guests on this show. I say it's been a while. We had young Madison Plummer, he's the first black female equipment manager in the history of the NFL. We had her on a few weeks ago. She was a fantastic guest. If y'all didn't see her, go back and listen to that show. We had a great interview. Before that, Jon Sokoloff. It's been a long time. We are glad to have you here this morning. What is going on in your world?
Thanks for having me, man. Not much, a lot of high school stuff, getting ready for some conference basketball tournaments, but yeah, just getting ready for OTAs, the drafts. I love this time of year, man. I love it.
Whenever we talk about WGNO, I always like to talk about our friend Ed Daniels, the late Ed Daniels, who obviously passed away almost 2 years ago now, a year and a half ago. And one thing that WGNO has been, no offense to my friends at the other stations, they all come on, but one thing that WGNO is better at than everyone else, and I've said this forever, is that everything is so important at WGNO, and you guys cover everything. The world of high schools, again, not that everybody else doesn't, but the way y'all do it, everything you cover is the most important thing that day, and y'all do such a great job at that.
Yeah, and there's so many great stories around. One, I appreciate you saying that. And two, there are so many great stories around here. I feel like there's not enough hours in the day to tell them. And a lot of it really needs to, a lot of the credit needs to go to obviously Richie Mills, our sports director.
Yeah.
He keeps us kind of in line on the biggest stuff going on. And he does an awesome job. So super pumped to, it's work for him. And yeah, man, we do our best, but I appreciate you saying that.
Yeah. And look, Richie did a really good job picking up the ball, obviously having to do it. And with the way that it happened with that, having the heart attack and just having to pick it up. He's done such a great job, and he's been on the show. It's been a little while, so maybe we need to reach out to Richie. All right, let's get into obviously our main topic of the day. And we're talking about, I know some people kind of get tired of it after a while, but look, to me, when you're thinking about the draft, which is now only 7 weeks away, it's hard to believe. The draft is 7 weeks away. But what the Saints are thinking right now, and I kind of joked about this in my open, John, but I think that if Jeremiyah Love is available when the Saints draft at 8, I think they'll run to the podium faster than Love runs the 40.
That is the most fun pick, right? That would get the fan base the most excited, but that is not Mickey Loomis's objective here, right? And the reason I say that is we have no idea. Now, this board fascinates me, and the Saints draft position fascinates me because, if you were picking, I don't know, like second or third, then you have to make a big decision. When you're a team like New Orleans at pick 8, the decision is going to be made for you, and there are so many guys that could be there. I mean, Jim, I'm curious to get your thoughts on this, but there are only a few guys who I know will definitely be gone at number 8, based on what I read about, based on mock drafts I've seen, based on taking a look at how the combine went. Obviously, Mendoza is going to be gone. Arvell Reese will be gone. David Bailey from Texas Tech, he's gone. And honestly, based on how he has raised his stock, I think Sonny Styles will be gone too. I don't see him getting past Washington. Okay, so that's 5 guys, Jim. Carnell Tate, what if he's there? What if Mickey Loomis sees him and says, wow, a big body receiver, another Ohio State guy. He already talked at the combine of how he'd like to play with Olave. That's one. Okay, maybe that could be a thing. What if Ruben Bain is still there?
Yeah.
Okay, Ruben Bain. We all watched the national title. We all watched Miami this year. That dude was a monster, and he can play anywhere you want on the defensive line. That would be a dream for Brandon Staley. What if they overly love, Downs? There's so much, and I overheard you talking about what if the Chiefs move up and get Love, a pick before the Saints, whatever. Okay, if they do, I don't think it's the end of the world based on what will be available to you. So it's not as much of a Jeremiyah Love thing to me as it is what is the board looking like at number 8? How do you grade out these guys? And another thing, now this is just a hunch for me. I'm not an NFL GM. I'm not an NFL scout. But Maui Goa from Miami, I always butcher his name. A lot of people are debating, is he a guard? Is he a tackle? It seems like those that believe in him being a tackle, which, by the way, he played, I believe, in 42 games in college, always durable. And if anybody has eyeballs and watched him in the playoff, they saw he looked great at right tackle. Anyone that firmly believes he's a tackle, not a guard at the next level, and I think at least some of these teams above the Saints will really believe that. Makes me feel like he will truly not be there by 8. So that could be the 6th guy, but either way. So if he does go, that helps New Orleans as well. But again, this 8th pick, it's not as much of a Jeremiyah Love thing to me as it is a board thing. And like, yeah, that would be great, but I don't know. I mean, if they took anybody they take, this fan base is going to be able to talk themselves into so quickly because they're going to get a great player at 8, no matter what direction they go in, unless they do a stupid Raiders surprise like Cleveland Farrell in 2019, you know?
You know, you bring up some interesting points, and that kind of like leads to where I wanted to go next. We're going to talk more about Jeremiyah Love, and it's all involved in this. But Paul Laporte says, and this goes to what I said in my open. I said last week at this time, not everybody, but there were a lot of people out there saying 8 is way too high to draft a running back. And now a lot of the same people are saying, and I'm not saying Paul Laporte, I'm not saying you said this, but Paul Laporte says Jeremiyah Love will be drafted before the Saints get a chance to draft him. So all of a sudden, because of the combine, his stock has risen. Now we still have 7 weeks of the draft. Now PFF is usually Pro Football Focus. I like to use their stuff. They didn't have as great a year this past year as they usually do, but their mock right now, you talked about Francis Mauigoa. They have him going to Arizona at 3 right now, which is an interesting spot. But so he could go as high. I don't think the Saints are going to draft a lineman. I think it's going to be.
I don't either, because they need interior line help, and I think they believe in Fuaga, and obviously Kelvin was the best rookie tackle last year, so I agree.
Yeah, and that's something I think obviously they're going to draft. I think that's the number one thing they're going to address in free agency. We kind of talked a little bit about this on Monday. But right now, the mock, and I'll just throw it out there. People can't see the screen who are listening after the fact or listening to the audio-only podcast. But obviously, Mendoza's going 1. But they've got Arvell Reese going 2. Mauigoa, as you were talking about, going to Arizona. Tennessee, Sonny Styles, who his draft stock is rising. I know a lot of Saints are talking about potentially Sonny Styles. If the Saints, not to, with my OCD, but if the Saints draft a defensive player, I'm going to say this again. I said this Monday. I've said this last week. The Saints draft a defensive player with their 8th pick. You're going to want to watch the live show on here because I'm going to go off. With the needs that this team has, they're all.
You would be mad if they draft.
Got to draft offense. I don't know if mad's the right word because he's such an interesting talent. I don't think he makes it to 8 anyway. So he's one guy that I still wouldn't be happy about it. I probably wouldn't go off. But the Saints, to me, if you look at this team, they've got an offensive-minded coach. They've got their quarterback, right? Or they think they have their quarterback at least. They have zero. I mean, I'm not trying to throw shade on AK-41, but Alvin Kamara is done. Okay, he's 31 years old. He's done. If they get 100 carries, if he ends up being on this team, and I still say it's 50-50 whether he's here or not next year. If they get 100 carries out of him next year, that's a lot. He is going to be the RB2. And I know it's, what are you talking about? That's blasphemous. Alvin Kamara's RB. That's why you have to have a real running back. And as many needs you, if Love is gone, then draft the top receiver in there. It goes Carnell Tate's. They got him at 5. If he was available, that would be a great pick. You got some other picks. They've got Mekhi Lemon of USC has been talking about being maybe the Saints. They got him going 13. So there's also a thing. And right now, this mock draft has Jeremiyah Love going to the Saints. So I think it's interesting. I do think he will be available at 8. But the question is what we're talking about, John, is whether if KC really wants him and they really need a running back, I absolutely could see them trading up to 7 if the price is right for the Commanders. And what do they care if they just drop down to 9 if they get an extra like second-round pick or something?
I just refuse to believe that a team like the Chiefs would not only take a running back that high, which maybe they would at 9, but I doubt that they would not only just take somebody there, but also trade up to get one. When have we ever seen them do this? Clyde Edwards-Helaire is the only time. And also, Jim, you got to factor in, look how much success Andy Reid has had with later running backs or running backs that he took with a later pick. Like Isaiah Pacheco was a 7th rounder. Kareem Hunt was picked in the 3rd round. I don't think Kansas City values running backs the same as the others, but I do think Jeremiyah Love is a special case where, you put him in that Bijan kind of conversation with how special he is, Saquon and all that good stuff where, okay, maybe if he's there at 9, maybe they really think about it. but I don't think they would trade up. And people that are talking about that, you got to think about the compensation that would come with it. And the first thing I think about is the Eagles in 2021, they traded up from 12 to 10 with the Cowboys to get Devontae Smith. So to move up from 12 to 10, they gave up a third-round pick. Okay. To move up from 9 to 7, you're talking at least a third, maybe more. Does Kansas City want to give up that kind of draft capital to get Jeremiyah Love? So that's why I'm thinking if you're a Saints fan and you are dead set on Jeremiyah Love no matter what, then I think he's there at 8. Unless either Washington takes him at 7 or the Giants do the stupidest thing imaginable and they take him at 5.
Yeah, look, and I know a lot of people are taking up for Alvin Kamara in the chat. I get it. You don't want to think Alvin Kamara is done, but he's done. I don't care. Yeah. I have faith in him. I love him. It's great.
Like the black
he's 31 years old.
Rivals. Yeah.
You know how many. I did this a little study last night. Running backs or anybody who's rushed for just 750 yards, 750 yards in a season at 31 years or older. It's only happened 23 times in NFL history. I mean, that sounds like, okay, well, you can do 20. You think NFL history. It's only happened 23 times in NFL history that a 31-year-old back or running or older than 31 has rushed for just 750 yards. I mean, the dude is getting hurt. He couldn't make it through a whole season last year. Again, they're gonna. I'm telling you right now, they're gonna play him like a guy if he stays. Again, I really starting to feel like he's gonna be a post June 1 card. I have that feeling. I just think that, and even if he stays, John, I think they're gonna use him as a guy who gets like 10 carries a game, if 8 or 10 carries, and I say carries, maybe 8 or 10 touches a game.
Yeah, and he's been very vocal about how much he wants to be here. And look, I mean, to me and you, that means nothing. I mean, the Saints, it's a business. You know, I know he's a fan favorite.
It's a business,
for
exactly.
A while, and everyone loves him, but it's a business, as we both know. Yeah, I could see that, especially if they take Love. I mean, I think he'd take on a lesser role, but maybe he wouldn't be that mad about that because maybe he would rather finish his career here, take on a lesser role than go somewhere else. I don't know. These guys are different, but every time we've spoken to Alvin Kamara in the Saints locker room, it's always the same sentiment. I'm never playing anywhere else. I want to retire a Saint. I want to be here my whole career. If they trade me, I'll be sipping whatever it was. I think it was pina coladas. I don't know.
Mai tais or pina coladas.
I don't know, whatever. So when you say stuff like that, I mean, look, maybe he would rather do that than get cut and go somewhere else and potentially have a bigger role, like a Kansas City type or whatever else, or a team that's in a position to block the run better than the Saints will be in 2026, which, again, the jury's still out. Who knows how they use those middle picks on interior linemen. How they address the middle of the O-line is arguably just as important as what they do with the 8th pick, in my opinion. I mean, that interior O-line needs a lot of help. Cesar Ruiz was not good last year. Trevor Penning got shipped off middle of the year. They need a lot of help and a lot of depth in those areas.
No doubt about that. Lee Saint, your comment is way too long for me to put on the screen, but I'll just say this, and I know you're going through the running backs the Saints have, basically saying the running back room looks pretty healthy. I think you also mean good. Lee and everyone else, and this is obviously just my opinion. Someone got mad at me because I was dared share my opinion on my show. That's an opinion show. I mean, how dare I share an opinion? But I don't think there's a legitimate running back on this roster right now. I mean, I really don't. Alvin, again, I think Kamara's done. Kendra Miller, I'm tired of talking about Kendra Miller. I mean, how many chances are you going to get? I'm not even sure he's going to make this team. Devin Neal, he's a 6th-round pick. Fine, he's an RB3. Audric Estime had one really good game. So you can go through. I just don't. There's certainly not an RB1 on this. There is nothing close to an RB1 on this team right now. And one thing I know about what Kellen Moore wants to do, and is he needs an RB1 to be good with this team.
He does. He's obviously got to be able to run the ball for sure. I agree with most of what you said. I think Devin Neal has done well. I think he has, and I think in college at Kansas, every time he's had an opportunity, he's done well with it. And every time he's had an opportunity with the Saints, I mean, the kid had a tough go at it with the injury in training camp, and he wasn't really even fully healthy for a lot of that. And still, when his number was called, I mean, he helped them out. So he's a good depth piece for running back. You don't want to go into a season and be like, oh, all right, Devin Neal's at the forefront of this, but he's a good depth piece for it, for sure. But yeah, I mean,
I agree for sure.
I don't know, man. Like, what would you? There might be like a later running back you could take to add some depth to it. I'm not sure. But again, like if they took Jeremiyah Love, they should be pleased about it. I'm not trying to make it sound like I'm anti-Jeremiyah Love. I'm not. I'm not anti him. I mean, if they took him 8th, I think Kellen Moore would be over the moon. I really
He'd do cartwheels in his front yard.
Yeah, I think so. I do. Because this is the thing, and I know the thing I disagree with you about is talking about offensive player, definitely. I think it just has to be best player available always in the NFL.
Okay. We love different opinions on this show.
Well, like, look, if you're Mickey Loomis, and let's say I hate to keep continuing to go back to this, but if you're Mickey Loomis and you are head over heels for Ruben Bain, and let's say Love is gone, it's like Ruben Bain, okay, you can take Ruben Bain, or you're going to take Mekhi Lemon, if there's that much of a difference between how their evaluators feel about them. I think that would be a mistake. But Mekhi Lemon might be a bad example because I loved him at USC. But I don't know. I'm full best player available no matter what, unless there's not that big of a gap. That's where I'm more aligned with you, because if there's not that big of a gap, then okay, if you're the Saints, hey, we got the quarterback. We got these. We addressed these in free agency. Now, since these guys are like so close to each other, we can take the guy that helps the need more than best player available if that margin isn't that big.
To show how big of a drop, and I know running backs, this show to me how big of a deal Jeremiyah Love is. And again, I know PFF rankings aren't the end all or whatever, but they're ranking their top 5 running backs in the draft, and you can see them on the screen. If not, if you're listening to the audio only podcast, I'll go through them. But Jeremiyah Love is the 4th best player on the board for PFF. He is the number 1 running back. The number 2 running back on the list, you got to go all the way to the 59th best player available in this draft according to PFF. Jadarian Price, also from Notre Dame. Then Jonah Coleman from Washington is the 81st best player. Emmett Johnson from Nebraska is 85. And the 5th best running back, according to PFF, is the 106th best player in this draft, Seth McGowan of Kentucky. So if you're going to get one in the draft, and we've seen, you talk about Alvin Kamara, he's a 3rd-round draft pick. The Saints have been able to find diamonds in the rough. But if they're going to get a game changer, that's why, to me, it's either Love or it's one of the top wide receivers. That's to me, that's where you go, because there's a lot of top receivers that are in the top 10 or top 15 in this draft.
Have you contemplated the free agency aspect of things for running backs?
Yes. I'm glad you brought that up. That's a great transition, because we talked about Kenneth Walker in the open, and now he is free. I mean, honestly, that's a road the Saints might want to travel, because to me, Kenneth Walker is one of the top 10 running backs in this league for sure, in my opinion. That would be a road that they might want to go.
He's had trouble staying healthy a little bit.
Yeah.
He's getting a little older. I think there's 3 guys in free. I think it's Kenneth Walker, I think it's Rico Dowdle, and I think it's ETN. Those are like the main ones. So if they're dead set on someone else who they think will be available for them at 8, and maybe they're not as high on Love or whatever, then I would then maybe go about one of those guys. Rico Dowdle had a great year. I mean, he'll get a nice little penny. Yeah,
no, I hear you. And if what you're talking about, and Gabe loves in the green room, and Gabe has helped this podcast for many years. I think he's talked more about Rico Dowdle than any other player in the NFL over the course of the last year. He loves him some Rico Dowdle. But if you can't see the screen, the top running backs available in free agency, and I put asterisks next to Breece Hall because he got the tag, so he's
not leaving New York.
He's not leaving the Jets. So I put that on there just for the sake of putting it on there. But Kenneth Walker, Etienne, and Dowdle are the 3 best running backs that are available in free agency. And after that, the 5th best running back in free agency is Tyler Algier. So it just goes to show you, if you are going to spend money in free agency, you got to get one of those 3 guys.
Yeah, no, I think so. But again, I don't want to sound like I'm contradicting myself, but what's your ceiling with Jeremiyah Love? Does that warrant the 8th pick, or taking one of those other guys in free agency for whatever less money? I don't know. I don't know. I mean, it all depends on those evaluations. And look, it's still pretty early. I mean, I know we're done with the combine, but these schools still have pro days. They've still got these visits. They still got the top 30 visits and all that other stuff. I mean, there's still a lot of evaluation that'll go into this. But I mean, I don't think taking Jeremiyah Love is the wrong move, just because I think he is special enough where it warrants, okay, we're taking this guy. He's that good this early. Similar to, Bijan. When the Falcons took Bijan, nobody batted an eye. Melvin Gordon, he was worth it. Like Todd Gurley, he was worth it. Like these guys that were taken this high, when you pass that checkpoint of how good you are, sometimes, you're worth taking that high of a pick as a running back. And I think Jeremiyah Love certainly fits that description. You talked about with PFF how he's what, like the fourth best player. That's pretty low. Like a lot of big time respected draft analysts had him like higher than that. I mean, we did a phone call with Daniel Jeremiyah, and I think he's the number 2 player on his board. I mean, that's pretty crazy stuff. So I do think Saints fans obviously should be happy and excited if they get Love 8th overall. I'm just saying that there's a lot more that goes into this other than them just being like, okay, yep, he's there, let's take him. But there's so much.
I hear you. I still think they're going to run on the podium, but I hear you what you're saying. Lance says, Lance, you cray. Kenneth Walker can't catch, don't want him. If you don't want Kenneth Walker, you cray. And another Earl's picks.
I'm not the Super Bowl.
I don't know. MVP of the Super Bowl. I think he's okay. Earl says Rico Dowdle's number 2. He says he's sorry if it's not Walker. I would stick with what we got. I'm not nearly as big a Rico Dowdle fan as Gabe Henderson, but I'll tell you this: Rico Dowdle is by far, and I mean by far, better than any running back currently on the Saints roster. You may not want to admit it, but that's the case. So just saying.
Yeah,
and
Rico Dowdle, he had a great
he
year.
is going to be 28 years old, so that is kind of something to worry about a little bit.
But you have to also credit Carolina, what Dave Canales did, basically like with that run scheme with him and Chuba. I mean, they fixed a lot of their offensive issues in Carolina. But I mean, look, man, Dowdle. I mean, he only started in, I think, like 10 games last year, and he still had over 1,000 yards. He could catch a lot of balls. I think he had like 300 receiving yards too. So he's definitely he'd be like a solid option. Like you're not putting all your eggs in that basket, but he's.
Yeah, no, I hear you. Look, I think this is going to be, last year we had all the stuff going on with Derek Carr, and that kind of leads me into transition of where I want to go next. And it's kind of every guest I've had since we had the season 6 premiere last week. This is the 5th show. We've had 5 different guests. And I will say this, I think it's such an interesting offseason, although maybe fans don't think it's as interesting because there was so much going on last year. You think about where the Saints were this time last year, and we had all the Carr drama. We were just finding out who the coach was. You didn't know who the quarterback was. Nobody was talking about Tyler Shuck yet. He was way down on people's radar. The state of the Saints, John, today compared to 1 year ago today is just, it's immensely better.
Light years better. And it's because they have answered a question that a lot of this league hasn't gotten an answer to. And they found who their quarterback is. And not just through what we saw on the field, through what he's able to do with arm strength and whatever, athleticism, fine. But he's checked the box of having it mentally. I think Tyler Shuck has it mentally, which to me is at the absolute least 50% of playing the position, if not more. The dude he knows how to prepare. And look, Jim, we spoke to him every Wednesday from the day we talked to him, Jim, the day he got benched, the day that it was announced that Spencer Rattler was the quarterback. Tyler Shuck carried himself the same exact way that day.
He really
did.
He
did the day that he was named the starter. And look, I mean, and all he said when asking about it, I asked him, I was like, dude, you have pretty much the same demeanor as this whole time, as we talked to you right after you were picked, as we talked to you, after you were benched, and now. And he goes, the only thing that's changed is like maybe the sense of urgency a little bit, but there's just so much work to do and whatever. I mean, I think they have it. So having him like that's big. Brandon Staley is one of the top defensive coordinators in this league.
I agree.
And that's why, as a coach, something that gets overlooked here is coach relationships. Kellen Moore was so tight with Brandon Staley. He was his offensive coordinator in LA. So him being able to bring him in over to New Orleans, that was huge too. So those two things are they're in place. The state of this team, you need to be very, very excited if you're a fan, because also I feel like Kellen Moore figured a lot of things out last year, which is another promising sign. So the state of the team, exponentially better now than they were a year ago. No longer in purgatory. You have the quarterbacks. Defense is way better, but there's still a lot of holes. And okay, I don't know what Jalen Polk is going to be. I loved him at Washington, but
Trey Palmer
really flamed out of there for a reason. You're just taking a flyer on him. Devon Vele showed some flashes, but you don't want to overly rely on that. Chris Olave is the guy, but let's see how much they're going to pay him. Like they need more weapons and they need help on that interior line. Those are the two things that this team really, really needs to address. And if they can address those between when this new league year starts, I believe next week, and in the draft, I don't know how you can look me in the eye and say that this team has no chance of winning the NFC South. Number one, it's the NFC South, but number two, they clearly look like a team that could be, could compete.
No, I agree wholeheartedly. And we talked about this division that's kind of stunk up the joint for a couple of years now. And we look at the potential win totals and the way Vegas looks at things. They still have the Bucs the favorite, but now the Saints are second in the odds makers' eyes. Again, no big thing. Let's see what the schedule looks like. Let's see what they do in free agency. Let's see what they do in the draft. This number may change, but over on the win total of 7.5, but to be second in the NFC South says a lot. Again, from where they were last year at this time, they were down. The preseason numbers for them were 4.5, John. So just to show you that they've almost doubled what they were even 7 or 8 months ago.
Yeah, and that's warranted. And there were so many, Jim, little things last year that made you optimistic about this team that maybe you didn't notice. I remember I was covering that Saints-Patriots game and thinking about the leaps and bounds like that Spencer Rattler had made. And I'm like, okay, this is a testament to the coaching staff. They know how to develop quarterbacks. And obviously, Rattler, it didn't work out, but in terms of him starting the rest of the year. But Scott Tolzien, Doug Nussmeier, Kellen, this is another small little sign that this team knows how to develop QBs. And there were a lot of things that happened last year, that small little things like that made you think, all right, this team's headed in the right direction. Look at the resurrection that Chase Young had. Look at, how much better Cam Jordan was in a competent defensive scheme. DeMario Davis still had it. Look at Jonas Sanker and Quincy Riley early on. These two guys making a contribution. It shows that they know how to coach and develop these defensive players. So, a lot of things to be optimistic about. And also, this cannot be understated. You got to think about the division that they play in. You just talked about how it stinks. I was talking to somebody the other day about the Pelicans and thinking there are some similarities a little bit between the Pels and the Saints, how both teams kind of getting better after the season gets away from them, and they got some pieces you can be excited about. But the difference is the Pelicans play in an absolute gauntlet of a Western Conference, and there are other, obviously, issues. Meanwhile, the Saints play in arguably the worst division in the NFL. So that's something they need to take advantage of for sure.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. So, look, I think we're in the same. That was an interesting conversation. I love when we have different points, different viewpoints on not just the Saints, but anything we talk about, because it is important to get multiple viewpoints. And again, we've been talking a lot about Jeremiyah Love, but to me, that is kind of the interesting focus of this draft. What you're talking about where the Saints are, they're not going to get, to me, they're not going to get an Arvell Reese or somebody like that. Again, if Arvell Reese somehow slipped to 8, of course, I'm not going to be upset if the Saints went out and drafted Arvell Reese. He's the top defensive player in the draft. He's not going to slip to 8, but if somehow that he did, then of course you're going to think about taking him. But to go with your point about, what worries me about best player available, and we're going to move on because we spent a half an hour here talking about the Saints, but what worries me is I don't think this team look, they're better. We just spent 10 minutes blowing sunshine up their butts. But while they're better, I just don't know if they're in a place to draft the best player available. If they want to be better like next year to the point to where they can compete for this division, and again, I agree with you. I think they can for sure. I just think you've got to give Shuck some weapons. You go out and get whoever your top guard is in free agency, whoever that guy is on your board, you go out and spend the money and get him. You're going to have to suck it up, I think, with Ruiz for one more year at least. But Ruiz might be okay if you go out and get the top guard that's available in free agency, and McCoy can stay healthy.
That's a big if.
Big if, I know.
I feel bad for that guy, man. Eric's a great dude, but he really is.
2 years in a row, it is a worrisome point. But you do that, and you go out and get maybe 2-3 skill player weapons, and I just think this team is in really good shape. And that's why I'm hoping that they do find a way to get Love.
Yeah, and that would obviously make Tyler Shuck's job a lot easier, right? And Carnell Tate would help with that too. Mekhi Lemon, that's who Daniel Jeremiyah told us that he wanted them to take, was either Love or Mekhi.
I'm not going to be upset if that happens.
Lemon, I just think the floor with Lemon would be so high. Like, I think he would come in here and instantly have like 1,000 yards and just catch, just a million balls, because we saw how USC used him with Mayala and I mean, he was such a big part of their offense, and that would be another good piece. Again, Jim, like, we could talk about all these guys, and especially offensive players, and they can't go wrong with it.
Look, and as we move on here, I will say this. There absolutely going to be a point made that the way that wide receiver salaries are absurd through the roof. We're about to see that with Chris Olave, because he's going to get the extension from the Saints. I think there's almost no question he's going to get in the neighborhood of 3 or 4 years, probably just shy of $30 million a year. And once they do that, maybe you're better served to spend the money on a running back in free agency, one of the 3 that we talked about. Spend the money on a free agent running back, and then you draft a wide receiver, you got him for the 4 years or maybe even 5 years, and you on a rookie contract. So there is certainly an argument that can be made that a guy like Mekhi Lemon would be a better fit for what you're trying to do. I'm not going to argue if that's what happens.
No doubt. And I was looking at like the numbers between Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave, and obviously they were teammates, so that's that makes it more interesting. But their numbers were almost identical, so you could think that, okay, maybe Chris Olave would get in the neighborhood of the Garrett Wilson extension, which I believe was like 4 for $112 with
right.
What was it exactly? Something like that. 4 years, $130 with $90 million guaranteed. Like that could be what Olave is looking at.
No, I agree. And it's going to be somewhere in that ballpark. We'll see. All right. I'm going to throw you a curveball. I didn't tell you we're going to talk about the Pels, but I just want to throw them up there for a couple minutes. I don't know. Did you see the game last night by any chance?
I did. The NBA is my favorite thing in the world, so you don't need to get mad about throwing Pels at me. Like I'll always. They could be 0-81, and we'll break it down.
Oh God, that would be miserable talking about them. They're 0-81. But look, we've got some fans here that want me to talk about the Pelicans all the time, and we just don't do it enough. But I will say this. Look, I get to I'm not a fan of the word. They were competitive. That means nothing to me. Okay. Right. I don't want to hear they were competitive. This team went into this season and things were supposed to be better. Their over-under win total was, I think it was like 41.5, which was right around 500. They were supposed to at least be in the play-in game. They're not even close to the play-in game. This team is just falling apart. I get things happen and whatever. But when are we going to stop making excuses for this team? John, I mean, you look at last night and a Lakers team that's been sliding. I get it. They're 6. They're probably going to – I mean, they're going to be fighting whether they're in the play-in or whether they're in the playoffs. But, they did a really good job kind of slowing Luka down and even LeBron to some extent. Then they just fell apart. You got an 8-point lead with 7.5 to go. Lakers call timeout, and it was lights out after that. And that's just kind of a microcosm of what this team has been this year.
Yeah. Couple of things. We stopped making excuses for them this year because last year they were coming off the 49-win season. They had the most injury-ridden team basically of – I don't want to say all time, but up there, man. I mean, they had so many injuries last year. I compiled all the stats of all the players who were gone. I mean, that was nuts. This year, Zion's played in a lot of the games. I mean, he just has. I do think this team is different when Herb Jones is in the lineup. So if we got 82 games for Herb Jones, I mean, how many extra wins do you think that gives them? Maybe like 4 or 5, maybe, give or take. That might be a little bit of a stretch. Here's what doesn't change, Jim. They can't rebound, and they don't play defense.
Other than that,
other than those two important things, I mean, that's the thing. And I'm not even saying this to be, a jerk. I'm going based on the stats. They give up 120 points per game, which is 27th in the NBA. And their defensive or their overall rebounding is near the bottom as well. I mean, they just I don't know.
Yeah, and last night, you talk about defense. I actually think that last night they had one of their better defensive performances. They forced 20-something turnovers, 21 or 22 turnovers, but they had like 17 or 18 themselves, and they were just kind of throwing. Look, DeJounte Murray's just coming back, and they're trying to feel things out. I know James Borrego. I actually thought he did a pretty good job with rotations last night. I have not seen. Look, I have not. I'm going to be straight up. I've probably seen 10 Pelicans games this year because I can't waste my energy on them. They're just like ticking me off. They're supposed to be, so much better than this. But I watched from opening tip to the end of the game last night, and again, I thought Borrego did a good job with the rotations last night. But they're just so sloppy with the ball sometimes, and they get frustrated and they go through these periods, these lulls. And honestly, I thought they were better than the Lakers team last night as far as talent. The talent is there, John. I just don't know what they need to do, because if they can just, a couple missing pieces, the talent is there. I don't know what they need to do.
I don't either. All I know is they're bottom 8 in the league in defensive rebounding and bottom 4 in defense, and I don't know what changes that. I think Zion could rebound better. I don't think you're that athletic, that strong. I mean, you watched the game last night. Some of those moves, Austin Reeves after the game even said, I just get out of the way. Like, I'm not getting hit by that.
Of course not.
It almost, but how are you only averaging 6 rebounds a game if you're built like that? That's my thing. And then after they lost to Phoenix, I asked James Borrego about rebounding, and he said, we've had an issue with rebounding since Valanciunas left. That was another part of it. So,
and they didn't address it after Valanciunas left, John. That's, and that goes to the front office. They did not look. Derek Queen, I think, is going to eventually be a really good player, and that's great. You gave up a protected pick. Don't get me started on that. But they just did. They never addressed the big man thing since Valanciunas left, and you've got to have that in the middle. I mean, you look at the Lakers last night, and you got what's the guy's name? The guy from the Suns, the former Sun. Brain fart.
On the Lakers? DeAndre.
The guy in the middle. That's anyway.
Yeah.
So I mean, but you go against him, and that's why can't the Pels go out and get a guy like the Lakers got? He wasn't that expensive in the grand scheme of things.
Well, they thought they were with Kevon Looney, and that just hasn't worked out.
I guess you're right.
They used their almost their full mid-level exception.
Right.
I don't know if it was the full mid-level, but 2 years, $16 million. The second year is a team option, which they will probably not pick up. But yeah, so that was them trying to do that, I guess. But you're right. I mean, they have not addressed the rebounding issues.
Hopefully they will. Hopefully they will this offseason. I mean, I keep saying that, but I don't know. Logan wants to know, when it comes to Pelicans head coach shirts, who would be a great option? Do you think I just don't think that. It's nothing against Borrego. I think this team just needs a makeover. When you're talking about makeover, I think that involves bringing someone in new to coach this team.
Yeah.
And I know you're in a tough. You don't have to say that, but let me put it to you this way, because again, you cover the team, so I don't put you in hot water. If the Pels were to move on from James Borrego, what kind of options do you think that they might have?
Well, I mean, that question talked about Tibbs. It talked about Mike Malone. Are they going to want to dish out $10 or $11 or $12 million to a guy to be their head coach? That's what it comes down to. Like that's the main question. And also a lot of those guys, I mean, yeah, they were championship coaches, whatever, but I don't know in the NBA how much coaching can help defense. I mean, maybe it could. Maybe you bring in a guy like Tibbs in to do that, but Tibbs would be like crazy for Zion because he overplays guys into the ground, and a guy like that gets hurt all the time. That could be interesting, but I'm not sure. Like if you're willing to spend that much on a coach like that, then yeah, I think it's might make sense to maybe explore. But James Borrego helped turn around the Hornets like a decade ago with horrific ownership. They're not owned by Michael Jordan anymore. Remember that.
Right.
Now, but he was dealing with horrible ownership, and he led them to like a 46-win season. I don't think Borrego's the problem, and I think you should absolutely talk with him about bringing him back. I think he's a great offensive play caller. I think he's not afraid to try different things and hurt some feelings in the event of that. So I don't know. I mean, like, would you rather Tibbs coach this team than James Borrego? I don't think I would.
You know, it's interesting because
Tibbs, it was so crazy. The Knicks fired him after they made the conference finals.
Yeah, and he was actually and it might have been when they were still the Hornets. I think it was when they were the Pelicans, but he was actually, they were interested in him years ago. So he was a name that came up long before you were here, John. But so we'll see if that's a name that they look at, or like you say, maybe they stick with James Borrego. Maybe they give him a year. He certainly comes cheaper than some of the guys we're talking about. That is a possibility. So
James Borrego came close to getting other jobs. He came close. I've literally asked him about it too, and he's talked about it ever since that Charlotte.
He will get another job if he doesn't stay here. I mean, he'll get another job at least as a top assistant.
Oh yeah. That's without a question. But I'm just saying, James Borrego was that head coach. I don't think any coach in the league, Jim, could have coached that Hornets team as well as Borrego did.
Yeah, I hear you.
I don't know. I don't know if they could have.
I'm not even throwing shade on Borrego. It's to me, my opinion of why I think Borrego needs to go. It doesn't even have to do with Borrego. I know that might sound silly. I just think this team needs, like, when you talk about makeovers, a team, you know, like the ladies who get their master makeover, and you watch the hour show and you put what they look like in minute 1 compared to minute 60, and it's completely different. I think the Pels need to look, I don't know about completely different, but they definitely need to look different next year. Again, nothing to do with Borrego, but they need to change that, and that may include Mr. Williamson.
Go through that though a little bit by firing Green, hiring Dumars. I mean,
they waited till the season started to fire again. I actually liked Willie, but I mean, if you were going to get rid of him, why would you do it 8-10 games in the season or whatever the hell they did it? So that was weird. All right. Last thing before I let you go, I just wanted to touch on this and LSU baseball, and we got a lot of Dattitude regulars, some members of the Dat family who get a little worried, a little nervous out there because LSU loses a Monday game to a team that's actually pretty good. They're predicted, and I know people don't think this matters, but they're projected to win the Colonial Conference. A Northeastern team that actually. It's not a bad baseball team, a team that's probably going to make the tournament later. Could be like a 3-seed or something like that. And then they're not going to host anything. But the LSU odds did not drop at all from them losing a game. And I just think that sometimes we get caught up in early season games in the grand scheme of things that don't matter all that much.
I mean, were these people having this same concern 1 week ago? You know what I mean? Like
last week they were talking about the pitching stunk, and this week they're talking about the hitting stinks.
Yeah, well, I mean, it looks like William Schmidt and Cooper Moore are certainly going to be able to be reliable guys down the stretch. And let me tell you, okay, Casey Evans, maybe he's had his fair share of struggles to start the year, but we all know what that guy did in Omaha to help this team kind of stay afloat. If this was 1 week ago, this team was undefeated. Or 9 days ago, they're undefeated. They're number 2 in the country. Everyone's, singing their praises. I mean, yeah, could the bats be a little better as of late? Yeah, they're in a little bit of a hitting slump. Casey Evans hasn't quite given you maybe what you'd hope. But the reality is it's still so early. And these SEC teams, they don't know their identity until we're pretty deep into conference play. So also, how about you give this team a little more grace? They just won a national title 9 months ago. I mean, what are we doing here? They lost Iverson, they lost Kate Anderson. So did every other good team. They lost their top players too. I just think, come on.
I mean, you're still trying to figure out. One thing, listening to, Lynn Rollins and Ronnie Rance talk about it the other night, and it's absolutely true. You're still trying to figure out who your weekend guys are going to be. Not necessarily your starters, but who's going to be in that bullpen. Who are going to be the main 3 or 4 guys in your bullpen? You don't even know what they are. You're still going to tinker with the lineup. Your first SEC series is until not this weekend, but next weekend. So you still got plenty of time to start figuring. And that's what they use these games for, John. They use these games to look. And Jay Johnson, I trust. I'm just going to say that.
Yeah, that dude is one of the best coaches in the country. How about Jake Brown, man? I mean, and Cade Arambidi obviously has been good too. Got to give him his flowers. But Jake Brown, the Zach York edition looks like it's been good too. And there are these other guys I'm just like not going to worry about. Like, Derek Curiel is going to get the job done. Stephen Milam's going to get the job done. Like they're going to be fine. Like,
Dardar is coming in as a senior, and he's going to be
Brown,
fine.
I just want to make sure to give him his flowers because this dude is raking right now.
Yeah, he really is.
His OPS is like over 1,200.
He really is. And look, I just think this team going through, as the more they go through, I'm not saying they're going to win the national championship, but I think they're going to be in the mix, and I think they're going to be a lot of fun to watch. And I said this Monday, I've already probably watched more LSU baseball in this early part of the season than I watched through like maybe Easter last year. Don't get me wrong. Usually around Easter is when I really start getting into college baseball, but I don't know. Maybe just because I'm ready for baseball. I don't know what it is, but I've really been into it. And I just think they're going to be a whole lot of fun to watch.
No doubt. I totally agree. And once March ends and March Madness and things like that slow down, I think that's when people will really start to hone in and pay attention, especially once SEC play comes around. I mean, at the SEC, it's basically the equivalent of like AA baseball. I really think so.
For sure. I agree. Who's your sleeper pick in March Madness?
Oh, man.
You have one?
In March Madness. I can't tell you. I'm a basketball guy. Like, I love it. I can't get enough. And this has been one of the greatest years of college basketball.
It's been good. It's been really good.
In a number of years. Sleeper. I mean, these aren't sleepers, but these top 4 teams are just insane. When you look at Duke, I mean, you could argue this Duke team is better than what they had last year with Cooper Flag and Kniffel.
I agree. I agree.
I mean, there's so many fun storylines this year, but I don't know. In terms of a sleeper, like I think Texas Tech could get a little Ewing theory-ish with JT topping out. They could make a little bit of a run. I don't even know if I'm going to call Kansas a sleeper. Like I don't think I could.
Yeah, I don't know if you call Bill Self's teams ever a sleeper, but they certainly.
I don't think I would.
Hey, they knocked Arizona from the ranks of the unbeaten a couple weeks ago. That was fun to watch.
It just depends with them what they get from Darren Peterson. I like what Villanova's look like with Kevin Willard there in their first year. I think
that's a good one.
Finally be relevant for the first time since Jay Wright left. Maybe they can make a little bit of noise. But to be honest with you, like even if I pull up the top 25 real quick, like it's so hard for me to say that anybody is going to beat one of these top 5 teams down the stretch. Like of Duke, Arizona, Michigan, UConn, and Florida, I would be absolutely stunned if at least 2 of those teams aren't in the Final Four.
And is this the last year of Matt McMahon? I mean, like Ascali says, man. I look before the Pels came on. I watched the first half and into the second half of LSU against Auburn, and they compete and they just fall apart. And like Auburn's no world beater, and Auburn kicked LSU's keister. I mean, it's really frustrating.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think Matt McMahon is dealing with a lot of injuries, so that
there's no doubt
that could be a saving grace for him.
But you can't keep going 3 and whatever, John, in the SEC.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like at some point, I don't know. At some point, it could be tough. Too much. But I don't know. I mean, I think they'll maybe give him another year to kind of work through this, maybe with a healthy team, and then if something ends up repeating itself like we've seen, then maybe that would be. Then maybe that.
We talked about it. We talked about it Monday that. With all that's going on at LSU, they might not be up for spending the money to go get a coach. They might give McMahon another year. We'll see. But it's frustrating because I really love watching LSU basketball, and we can watch the women and have fun watching the women. But when you can't even watch the men compete in the second half against Auburn, against the 6 and 10 in the SEC Auburn team that is projected to be one of the first 4 out of the tournament, and you can't compete against that, that's really tough.
That's bad. And I know the Thomas and Reed injuries are bad, but I will say you were talking about the women. I was at the South Carolina game, and that was one of the greatest college basketball atmospheres I've ever seen. And I've covered some big time basketball when I was in Lubbock, and man, that was nuts. That was some nuts stuff in there.
Well, John, I will say this: we love having you here in New Orleans. We're glad you found your way here, and we love what you're doing over at WGNO. And look. I'm telling you, for people that want to see on a nightly basis, stuff that gets covered across the entire area. You guys do a great job with prep, with all the smaller, the UNOs of the world, the Delgados of the world. You guys do it all, and you do such a great job. Give Richie my best over there, and we look forward to having you on again, Jon.
I won't give him your best. I'll give him your. He doesn't deserve your best. I'll give him your. I'll give him your average. How about that?
Sounds good. And one of your bosses, John Cruz, and I went to school together. So don't give him my best. Just give him a little poke in the eye for me.
There we go. All right. Well, maybe I won't do that, but
all right. Well, he's your boss, so you can't do that.
I'll give something along those lines. Something that doesn't get me fired. How about that?
Sounds good. Jon Sokoloff, we'll see you soon. Thank you so much for spending part of your Wednesday morning with us.
Of course, man. Anytime.
Talk to you soon. We love having first-time guests on the show, and Jon was a great one. Just so much good stuff. We've had some really good guests to start the season. It has been a fantastic start to the season. Look, and I know sometimes y'all don't want to. It sounds like we're talking about the same things over and over again. To some extent we are. And I go back and look at what we were doing last year and what we were talking about, and look, we just don't have the same topics that we had last year. I mean, we had the Carr, the Kellen Moore, the Spencer Rattler. The Saints stunk. The Pels were in flux. We just had so much more to talk about this time last year, and I just think that we've done really good with our guests. And so, thank you, Charles. I think he was great as well. So this is what we're going to be talking about. And again, I told y'all this the other day. Going forward over the course of the next few weeks, I'm going to start making draft profile previews, and even if it's because let's be honest, let's be frank, okay? I'm Jim, but you can call me Frank if you want. Well, I mean, I think the Saints are known for throwing curveballs, right? So we're going to look at guys that we're going to spend shows on guys that maybe the Saints won't be drafting, but because we're going to talk about the draft itself. Maybe we'll talk about free agency. There's going to be news almost every day over the course of the next few weeks in the free agency world that's coming up. That period opens up on Monday. We're going to have pro days to talk about. We're going to have all kinds of things. So anyway, I know y'all get tired of hearing me talk about Jeremiyah Love, but obviously that's the boat that I'm on, and I can't stop talking about it right now. Anthony says, they keep Matt McMahon for another year. It's like rearranging the deck chairs in the Titanic. And one thing you have to realize about some guests, and I have a show that's an opinion-based show where I give my opinion, but not every guest that we have is as much as they know what they're talking about. Sometimes guests are a little apprehensive to give their true opinion because they have to cover these guys on a daily basis. So you have to understand, Jon covers everything. He doesn't want to rock some boats, and I certainly get that. Lance, thank you. He was a very good guest. All right, before we wrap it up today. Again, I'm sorry I sound like somebody hit me in the nose. I have been under the weather this is day 5. But I was not going to not do a show again, especially with a first-time guest. So we're pardon my nasally sound, but hopefully we'll be better on Friday. If not, we'll come out and do what we did today. We're still going to do a show, and I know by next week we'll be okay. But before we move on, we told you earlier we would let you know more about how Evangeline Securities can help you figure out what your family-run or privately held business might be worth and whether it's time to sell. How do they do it? Well, I mean, have I asked a better question than that all day? No, I haven't. After their complimentary valuation of your company, if you decide to proceed, native New Orleanian Nick Braden and the folks at Evangeline, they'll begin an extensive auction process among established private equity funds from around the whole wide world. The whole wide world. They'll maximize the return for the founder and his or her family. Evangeline Securities is the top producer on their platform. There are very few companies like them in this area, and 0.0 with their dedication and success. We're still working on 0.0 shirts, by the way. They're fully licensed. They're ready to serve you. So get in touch with Nick about what's really important. I can't do it. I just have to tell you. Gabe, you want to come on and tell him real quick what's important? Gabe's going to tell you, I can't do it right. Not today. Gabe, what's really important?
The rest of your life.
You can find them at www.evangelinesecurities.com. It's nothing that Tussin can't help. I have not taken Tussin, but me and Mucinex have been great friends.
Love Mucinex.
As soon as I get off to this screen, I'm going to say goodbye and I'm going to go find my friend Mucinex. So, yeah. Real quick, Gabe is in the house. Not for long. I just brought you on to say hello. What anything you want to opine about this morning? Is any of all the NFL news that happened yesterday, and there was a ton, which one maybe surprised you most? The one you want to mention?
Nothing really surprised me. Maybe I guess maybe the Kyler Murray thing, but it's not the fact that he got cut, but it might be the fact that he got cut now. I don't think there was much financial incentive either way, so I really think this.
The only financial incentive is the cap move to save them $20 million on next year's cap.
Okay,
that shows you how much they want to get rid.
There's that, and then I think it was just kind of a nice, like, hey, thanks for what you did, thanks for being a pro about this. We'll see you later.
Lance says Aaron Jones and David Montgomery would be a nice tandem. 1 year flyer. Do you want Aaron Jones?
Nope.
No. I don't know who's going to. Aaron Jones is, I think, coming to the end. Scott Claymore says whiskey and honey. How about just whiskey? I don't know. I'm not going to miss whiskey with all the crap that I've been, the drugs they prescribed for me.
Like I've been saying though, and I know I kind of beat this drum into the ground. Part of it is just patting myself on the back for my take last year about Rico Dowdle. But I mean, really, you look at him and you say he's 28, but like I mentioned to you,
he does have
96 carries in his career before 2 seasons ago when he first broke out with the Cowboys. So his 2
seasons giving you grief
as a premier back, he's had over 1,000 yards. Only had 96 carries before that. There's not a lot of tread on those tires.
No, I actually agree with you. I think that there's a, if you're talking about guys and you're looking for somebody that doesn't have a lot of tread on the tires, I mean, a guy who hasn't rushed the ball 150 times or 200 times in a season, then that's a guy
I mean,
you're going to look at.
2 seasons.
Yeah, but you know what? Who I'm going to compare him to a little bit, and this is, if Saints fans want to compare him to somebody, I compare him to like a Latavius Murray. Okay, when Latavius Murray came to the Saints, he was 29 years old. But if you look at the seasons before he came here from Minnesota, he'd only carried it 140 times a year before he came here, 216, which is a lot the year before that, but 195 the year before that. But he had only had, I think, he didn't even have 1,000 carries before he came to the Saints. And then after he left the Saints at age 30, he ended up playing, 1, 2, 3 more years after he left the Saints. So, and he had 760 yards as a 32-year-old in 2022. So one of those guys I was talking about, one of the 23 guys in the history of the NFL who gained 750 more yards or more after 31 years old or later. One of them was Latavius Murray. So you talk about guys that don't have a lot of tread in the tire, and I do think that he could be that guy.
Age is a huge thing for running backs, and I know we talk about that, especially with guys like Kamara. Kamara's got a lot of tread on the tires. It's really very rare that we see someone like Dowdle break out with back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons when he's 27, 28.
Yeah, Lance says he wants Tyler Jill and Love. If we aren't going Love, then ATN and Downs and no defense, dude. And I don't look. I don't want ATN. I know you feel differently about ATN than I do. I would.
No, I don't feel that. I was going to comment on
much rather Kenneth Walker than ATN. They're not going to be that far apart in money. They're going to be maybe $1 million different. I would much rather have Kenneth Walker at $10 million than have ATN at $9 million, or Kenneth Walker at $11 million than ATN at $10
I don't
million.
think Seattle lets Kenneth Walker leave.
I think he is. I think they're going to let him leave. I really do. Everything I'm looking, and I know people keep saying that, but I keep reading through the lines. I do think they're going to let him go, but we'll see. Anyway, it's so funny how much I don't hate people. It's Charles, you and everybody else. I'm not, because I say that I want them to let AK go bye-bye. That doesn't mean I don't hate Alvin Kamara because I want him to go. I want him to go because he's done. He's DONE done. He's 31 years old. He didn't do all that much last year. In fact, not only did he not do much, he didn't do anything. Hold on. I'm going to call
Wasn't he the lowest
live
rated rusher with
I'm just going to tell you what, I don't need
players
to
of
care
all
what his
time
ratings are. I'm going to tell you what his stats were last year. He started 11 games. He had total offense. This is not just, he only rushed 471 yards. He had 1 touchdown all year in 11 games. He had 650 yards of total offense in 11 games. That's awful. Okay. That's as a 30-year-old. It's not going to get better. Okay. That doesn't get better. And, oh, yeah, his line stunk. Whatever. Make whatever excuse you want to make. It's not going to get better. Ask Callie. We need fresh and new. Amen. And I know you being screaming. Charles, you told me he was going to have 1,000, whatever yard. What did you say? 1,200 yards of offense last year. He had half of that. I mean, and it's not just you. I'm not picking on you, Charles. You're not the only one that's saying that. A lot of other people say, you know why you say that? Because you love the dude. I get it that you love the dude, but sometimes you just gotta let go. If you want to win football games, you gotta let go. They held on. Blasphemy coming. They held on to Drew Brees too long. Don't hold on to Alvin Kamara too long. Sorry.
I will leave you.
I
with
said
this
it out loud.
thought because you mentioned defense and not wanting him at 8. I'm with Lance. If Love is not there and Downs slips to 8, you have to take Downs. I think, and I'm not a draft evaluator nor a talent evaluator, but for what it's worth,
he clarifies that he does not give financial advice either.
I think Downs is the best player in this draft.
Okay.
I really do. He's so special.
I guarantee you he is going to be a guy that is in our draft previews. Or we're going to spend time, maybe you and I will have a segment where we'll have draft preview of the day. We should probably start doing that. Maybe we'll start it Monday. Also, we're going to have a new segment beginning Monday. I was going to start it this week because I was sick. I didn't. But starting Monday, I'm always trying out new things. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. But we're gonna call it that random date in history. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this date in history, okay, whatever like today would be March 4th. I would go into a randomizer, okay. Any date between 1950, that's how far 1950 and 2025. And the randomizer is going to give me a year, and I'm going to go find what was on the front page of the sports section on that date of the Times-Picayune in whatever year that are. And we're going to call it that random date.
Fun little this day in history. I believe 26 years ago today, the PlayStation 2 was released. Big part of my childhood.
Well, you know what? I can't complain about that because I had one of the. I don't play games anymore. But I did back in the day. All right, just for fun, okay.
Lance and I really agree today. Don't like wide receiver at 8.
That's probably bad for you.
No, I don't like any. I don't like any of these wide receivers this early, unless it's Cornell Tate. But I don't even know if he's.
All right, let's see. Just random stuff. Let's see. Random. This date in 1993. I don't give a rat's ass about ESPY Awards. Who do you think won the ESPY Awards for the top athletes, men and women? This date in 1993.
I have no idea.
Michael Jordan and Monica Seles.
I don't even know who the latter is.
You don't know Monica Seles? Come on,
Never
man.
heard that name in my life.
What are y'all going to get? He doesn't know who Monica Seles. This youngster, this Gen Z or millennial, which one are you? Millennial?
It depends on. I took a whole course on this at Manship. It depends on where you look. Most outlets would say Gen Z. Most would. I consider my personality to be more aligned with millennials.
Okay. All right. Me. Well, I'm losing my voice and somebody's deciding to weed whack their house right outside my door here as we go. Yeah, really, Gabe? Monica?
No, I've never heard that name in my life.
She's one of the.
Who is she?
I would say she's probably one of the top 10 female tennis players in the history.
Okay, I don't give a rat's ass about tennis. So
just saying. Well, you feel about tennis the way
I can count the amount of times I've watched a tennis match on one hand. I don't care about tennis.
Phil,
do not care.
It's not going to be Mansour Delane. Absolutely not. No. Not Mansour. I love Mansour Lane, but right now he's projected to go 13th, and I think that's actually kind of high. I don't think he's going to go that high. We'll see. But look, I'm telling you, you're going to want to watch our live draft show. We're going to have a lot of fun with it. We're going to have guests in and out sporadically throughout the show, and Gabe and I will be hosting our live draft show on April the 25th. I will see you before then because I will see you Friday, assuming that I can get out of bed.
Yeah, feel better.
All right, see you then. All right, does he know? Of course he knows who Serena Williams is. That's more recent. I mean, she's still playing, right? You do shake your head that you know Serena Williams. Okay. I mean, I just had to ask. Charles says Breeze was a great tennis player. Maybe he was. I don't know. I forgot about that, Ryan. She was stabbed in the neck on the court. Forgot about that. That's true. That's not a joke. Scott Claymont says, if Love is gone, trade down. I can't disagree with you. They're not going to do it, but I can't disagree with you. All right. I have got to wrap it up for today. I'm surprised we made it this long. Yeah. I don't feel that bad. Maybe talking to y'all made me feel better. I don't know. Because I do feel better. I feel better when I didn't think I was going to be able to do it. UBN says it'll be available for a draft appearance. We will have you. We will find a way to get you on UBN, of course. That will wrap it up for us on this Wednesday. I want to thank today's guest again. Of course, whenever you get a chance to have a first-time guest, Jon Sokoloff was fantastic. Gabe, well, he was in the background for a little while, and then he came on, and he told you what was really important. And then we talked a little bit, and we told him about Monica Seles, and now he can go look her up and see all about Monica Seles. Random date in history. That's gonna be a fun segment, I think. Maybe I'll use it as like a trivia question. I'll bring on Gabe, and we'll have some random trivia, like what happened on this date, and I don't know, whatever. Maybe that's how we'll do it. That would be even more fun. We hope you can join us next on Friday when our guest will be, of course, it'll be Zach Ewing. Every Friday, our guest is Zach Ewing. But you know what? You know how important you are to us. Please, if you have not already done so, please subscribe to our Dattitude YouTube page. Consider supporting the channel by becoming a member of the Dat family as well, where you would get, at this moment, you will get Slack free entry into our Slack message chat, and also telling you, I know I keep saying this, but I got to do some other stuff with membership that's coming up. I'm working on it, little bits at a time. You can also find us wherever you get your podcasts, including Apple, Spotify, and many more. That will wrap it up. I hope everyone has a wonderful couple of days. We will see you all on Friday, and until then, take it easy, my friends.